in the book Persepolis, on pages 4 and 5, we saw that in the first panel, it shows a school ground where all the kids are playing together. They're really peaceful and happy. This year was in 1979. They were in a non-religious French school. And you can see in this photo, there's boys and girls. They're all together. However, if we look back, the author's style is kind of strange because it has the book going from the present to the past and then back to the present again. But in 1980, it became required for them to wear the veil at school, and boys and girls were separated. And in this picture, you can see the girls kind of fooling around with the veil because they're not really religious, so they aren't really aware of what to do with it. And we just thought that this was kind of interesting to point out because before 1980, it wasn't required for them to wear the veil. So now that they're all wearing the veil, it just kind of shows how they're forcing religion onto this non-religious French school.
And in this panel right here, everybody looks kind of uniform, and they're kind of in a non-religious school, so she's in an environment where she might feel left out or that she's not part of some community that they're all together in because she was born into a religious family and with religion in her life.
We also, another thing we noticed was how the author's style is that all the panels with this man who's speaking about the new rules about having a veil in school and separating the boys and girls and kind of just going into a more religious format, we noticed that in these boxes, or panels, the stylistic technique that the author used was to make the background a little darker. So I think that really enforced like how it could be viewed in a negative sense, because light normally tends to symbolize like happiness, laughter, like joy, and then darkness we know symbolizes like kind of violence and war and disagreement or whatever. And so that was something that we noticed in these panels where the man was talking about all the religious differences and how these kids are like being separated and forced into this religion.
And then if we look at this panel here on the top of page 5, it shows people fighting for religion and against it. These ones are chanting freedom and these are chanting for the veil. I found it interesting how, like we talked about here, where the darker colors might represent more violence and harsh reality. They chose to also be wearing black in this. So I think it could show that they're more aggressive trying to push the religion onto these people, which are wearing white. And they're also, if you look at their eyes, they're shut, while these ones are open and their mouths are open like they're yelling. But these ones seem more at peace because they are comfortable with their religion, even though they're trying to push it on to these people. That's why they could be mad about it or chanting freedom rather than something against religion.
We also noticed, so in this, for the context of the story, what's happening is a journalist took a photo of the main character's mother and put it into a news article that published her face all over the newspapers and all over magazines in Iran. And this was very scary. I don't think that the protagonist realized how scary this was, because here she's saying, I was really proud of my mother. Her photo was published in all the European newspapers. So I think that this is saying that the young girl is a little bit naive, because in a sense she's saying that, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of my mother, like she's protesting, she's doing all these good things for like our community and our beliefs. But on the other hand, the mother down here, you can see, it says, have you seen this? Don't worry, darling. And like the husband is supposed to be like really comforting and trying to like tell her like, oh my gosh, like this is all gonna work out, like it's gonna be okay. But the reality is that living in Iran during this time is very scary. Like, and as we talked about here, there's a lot of powers and people who kind of take it like upon themselves to kind of dictate what religion is going to be for everyone, what the power of speech is going to be. So I think that's why the mom was really upset, and that's also why the protagonist didn't fully understand the severity of the situation.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I think that we talked about her being naive, but I think that down here, the adults in this situation are more like aware of what is going on, so they are the ones that are more worried about all this, and the reassurance coming from the father, because she's younger and doesn't really know much about it. We also see that the mother is trying to hide herself. This could be because of a number of things like embarrassment or shame, or just the fact that she was scared. And like we talked about, this was not a very peaceful place to be growing up or living in at this time. So her dyeing her hair shows the violence and severity of all this. But I really wonder why, if some of these boxes that were darker were showing all like violence and darker themes, I wonder why this one is lighter, because if she's trying to hide herself from all this violence and the things she could be afraid of, then I wonder why the author didn't choose to show this in a darker fashion.
Yeah, I agree. And lastly, just connecting this all to human nature. I think that here we can see human nature being really violent, and people kind of saying like, oh, like, I'm gonna dictate this for the rest of you. This is what I believe in, so this is what all of you want to believe in. But I wonder if later on throughout the novel, the protagonist will kind of find her own voice. I know right now she's kind of, well, first of all, it's just explaining the context, but she's kind of a background character in this story as of right now. But I wonder if later on she will begin to speak up and recognize like her beliefs and recognize that everyone deserves like equality and freedom, and kind of show how human nature may be able to be a good thing and not just a bad thing overall.